Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We are so happy you're here today. I'm Dan Hendrickson. I'm joined with Chris Haliua. And today we're going to talk to you about Domo Everywhere. We're super excited to share some really cool details about that with you. Before we dive into Domo Everywhere, I want to take a second and make sure we all have a foundational understanding of what Domo is, which is obviously the product that powers Domo Everywhere. Domo is a platform that we built to help empower organizations and business users to make more informed decisions on a day-to-day basis. We've got thousands of connectors that can help the business connect to their data in whatever environment it lives in, whatever state it's in. We make it really easy to go out and get that data and to get it at scale. Doesn't matter how much data you've got, where it's at, Domo's got your back. We can gain access to that data. As we get that data and the platform gets access to it, we've got data manipulation tools built in that can help the most technical users or those business users do advanced data manipulation on that data to get it in a usable state and bring all those different data sources together. I'm looking at you marketers. You've got data in email marketing, social media platforms, web analytics. Getting it all together is tough. Domo makes that easy. Once we've got all your data connected, we make it super simple to visualize the data and tell compelling stories and gather insights. And we're going to get into that a little bit more when we dive into Domo Everywhere. But know that the visual elements are a big part of what Domo does. We make it easy on the desktop. We make it easy on the mobile. Whatever device you've got, Domo makes it really easy for you to gain access to those insights and consume that data on the go at your desk, wherever you're at. A couple of things that are my favorites about the Domo platform that I think is important for you guys to know is we help make the data actionable. So not only do we make it really easy for you to get answers to your business questions wherever you're at, things like alerts, those can include all sorts of context around why that alert was fired, tons of rich information in there. So we ring that bell for you, let something know it needs your attention. Domo doesn't wait for you to go in and check it. And then we got collaboration tools as well. So let's pretend I get an alert. It's something I want to talk to Chris about. We can have a conversation right there adjacent to the actual visualizations and the data. And there's no question about what dashboard I was looking at or anything like that. So what I want you to take away from those ramblings is it's a platform that can grab all your data from all the different sources and distribute it to all the people throughout your organization so that everybody can make smarter and more informed business decisions every day. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about Domo Everywhere. Chris, what is it?
So Domo Everywhere is the way for you to be able to distribute live data experiences over thousands of different organizations in a way that you know that it's going to look like you, feel native, be trusted, and be safe most of all, so that all those external parties, whether they're customers, vendors, or partners, are only seeing that subset of data that you want for each of them in a way that you can believe is very, very safe. And so what we want to do is also engage them in a way that is very interesting and actionable. You were talking a moment ago about how Domo as the platform makes sure that not just individual experts in your analyst team have access to data in their little corner, but we want to take that same thing and make sure you get that BI leverage with all of your customers, partners, and vendors in a way that they can understand and want to explore, even if they're not sitting through hours and hours of training. And most of all, it needs to happen where they are already spending time, where they're already working, and where they're naturally going to be curious and wanting to know about how you are providing value to them and how they can take action with you as a partner.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that explanation. So essentially what we're talking about is taking everything we know and love about Domo and we're making it available to people outside of our organization, which is awesome, right? Embedded analytics is like 2022's buzzword, right? That's what we're all talking about. And we're going to show you how Domo does that today. So we got a customer we're going to look at that's Stravello. Now, Chris, what we find oftentimes, right, as customers are venturing into this is they got Domo, they've got their data in there, they're getting insights from it. And as people they're filling questions from these customers, vendors, and partners, they're going to Domo to find those answers, right? So naturally, it just makes sense to extend that Domo environment to them. Let's talk about Stravello. Let's get into this example.
Great, yeah. Domo Everywhere has had success with hundreds of customers across all industry verticals. Stravello is just a sample company of one of the many. They are a bike manufacturer that sells their bikes through an extensive dealer network. It needs to make sure that as they're balancing supply and demand, especially with complex situations like we're in today, that they're able to make sure that all their customers are happy with getting their orders on time, and all their vendors understand when those customers are likely to be placing those orders. So here with Stravello, they started out with a dashboard just to be able to understand where their manufacturing sites were, how things were trending over time, and they began to see there's a lot of value that they could get by just being open with other organizations outside the borders of their own company on the same data.
Yeah.
So the first thing that they really wanted to do, though, is realize that they can't read minds.
Sure.
At first, what's often happening with embedded analytics in general is that we assume too much. We assume that we can magically create some sort of template that's going to answer every question, make sure we never get another phone call from a concerned partner or customer, and we can get part of the way there with what you might have thought embedded analytics was a few years ago.
Sure.
But really what we're going to show here is how Domo Everywhere is different and how it helps those who might want to look at basics and just view the defaults you put together, but then also help those all-stars, those customers that really want to be able to create their version, edit their version, share their version, and even connect their version of data with yours to build new solutions together that neither of you would have been able to do before.
I love it. Well, and guys, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Punchline, we got, like Chris mentioned, thousands of Domo customers, hundreds of them using Domo Everywhere. They're building revenue streams. They're creating products off of this thing. I know some of you are already thinking that, but no, they're doing it. It's real. Before we get into that, Chris, let's talk about the branding really fast. Now, if we're going to embed this in Stravello's website, this dashboard you got here is beautiful, but it looks a lot like Domo, right? I spent a lot of time in Domo dashboards. I know what Domo looks like, the red, the blue, the green. What options do we have to make sure that as we put this information out in front of our customers, vendors, and partners, that it really looks on brand and it feels like a Stravello experience? Not, we've all seen those where you can tell that some aspect of a website or a portal doesn't really belong there. What can we do to help make sure that it feels at home in whatever environment Stravello wants to put it in?
Yeah, the thing that you mentioned right there that was super important is that anytime a viewer feels like an experience doesn't belong there, the trust goes way down. Sure. And so it's really about maintaining that trust and maintaining that familiarity of something that looks native. So if we flash over real quick and take a look at what the real Stravello property looks like, we can see a different set of colors. We can see these reds and oranges that come out in their normal branding.
Yeah.
So as we're inspired by that general style and we want to keep it consistent in the way that we're going to be distributing these live data experiences, the answer is Brand Kit. And
You're not going to make me write a bunch of HTML and CSS and all that garbage, are you?
If you really want to, we'll let you. But the answer is that mostly crazy people are the ones who want to do that the most. So if you happen to not be crazy, then we can just come right here into admin. And under Brand Kit, you'll notice that the main things that we're focused on is colors.
Yeah, that's a big part of charts, right? You want to make sure that they're on point with the brand. That makes sense.
So under settings, we want to make sure, like you said, that we're not getting sucked into code if we don't want to. So with this, we can start off with basics, like even just the login background. We can change this to more of a Stravello red if we wanted to. We can go up into fonts, change that to any set of default fonts that we feel match our brand more. And then down here in the chart colors is where we can get really detailed. And just like you said, Domo branding is pretty recognizable. It's been out there for a long time. And really, when we want to shift away from the Domo defaults in colors, all we have to do is simply select the Stravello palette, and immediately it gets applied for us without us having to go out and apply individual color rules for each individual chart over and over again.
Now, I know some of those things, when we were looking at that dashboard, right, there's a lot of dots on that map, right? Are you telling me if I've got 50 dots and I want to be 50 colors, I got to specify all those? Or like how do you make that easy for me?
So fortunately not. We can just really define an instance-wide defaults, and after we've chosen all the colors that we like all the way down to individual hex values, if that's what you want to do, then we can just make sure that all of that previews exactly the way that you would want and make sure that it feels and looks and acts like Stravello.
And to make sure I understand, if you go back up to that chart palette, did I name every one of these, or do I just come in and I just specify kind of those core values, right? You got some cool stuff where you build out those gradients for me?
Yeah, so that's the really nice part here is that often when you get some sort of brand style guide, they're only giving you the initial colors. They're just saying, primarily we want you to line up with these main hex values for the colors in between. But it's no fun to then go and say, okay, how are we going to perfectly keep each level of shading even so it's accessible for those that are colorblind, beautiful for the design specialists out there, and just legible in general. So the answer is no. I can just come in here. Let's say we wanted to create a new color. Let's go with a gray. All I have to do is just slide that over there or input a specific hex color value, press save, and automatically I've chosen
you got them all, like 10 of them
all
or
the
whatever.
shades are there, So instead of having to have hundreds of values, I'm really just choosing 3 or 4 or 5, and I'm off to the races.
I love it. So I come in here, we set my font, we quickly and easily keyed in our main brand colors. You built out a whole palette about it.
Right.
And so how do I put that on all my dashboards, right?
Yep, so all I got to do is save this palette. And now, when we go back and we take a look at our overall options for different colors, just by virtue of us having clicked over here away from the default colors before to this new Stravello palette, now when I reload those same dashboards we were looking at just a few moments ago, all those values have been mapped for us.
Yeah, the greens are gone, the blues, red, orange, yellow, a few shades of blues.
Right.
Looks great. I love it.
Yep. Takes a process that used to be hours, turns it into just a few seconds.
Oh, man, that's awesome. So now the dashboard's got the right font. It's got the right colors. It looks a lot more like Stravello. How do we now put it in front of our customers, right? What do we? You talked about providing this super awesome experience where I can go in and do all my own analysis. Let's see what that looks like. How does that manifest itself for one of Stravello's dealers?
Sure. So let's go out here and take a look at where Stravello's dealers already are spending their time. They're coming to Stravello trying to answer that question of, where's my customer's order? How am I going to make sure that as a dealer I maintain that good reputation?
Yep.
So just come over here onto Stravello's website, and they have their dedicated partner portal.
Okay.
And in here, we want to make sure, again, that this is where the security, the safety, the reliability comes in, that no company is ever going to see another company's data.
Of course.
So in this case, we're going to make sure that James at Top Bikes only sees the information from Top Bikes and only sees the information specifically even for his role.
Sure.
So as he's logging in here, he's able to go in and we securely make sure that number one, he's authenticated as the right person, and that number two, he's getting that filtered subset of data that matches his specific dealership.
Yeah. Love it. So talking about James can see here, obviously we see the supply chain dashboard, right? Now, what can James do? Obviously, we know you can filter, you can drill. I know exporting comes up a lot. Talk to me about exactly what James can do here.
Sure. So in traditional web analytics, sometimes you're left with something as lame as a static export. You can see it, but you can't touch it at all, and nothing happens. I would challenge you anytime you see any type of data out on a news article, just to touch it and see if anything changes.
Sure.
Unfortunately, a lot of the time when you're looking at data out there in the world, nothing does.
Yeah.
But really with the next step of basics, like you said, you can drill, you can touch into one point and really see the specific information for that location. You can just paint on a specific filter you're looking for to really get a little bit more detailed into a date range. And all those things are what you might see from a lot of other web analytics vendors. Embedded analytics vendors.
Sure, got it.
But really what we're trying to do is go beyond that.
Yeah.
And when we say that point earlier that we can't predict every single question that Top Bikes might answer, every question that Top Bikes might have, we can then say, okay, let's let you answer it for yourself. So
what if James wants to know something that, we got manufacturing size production over time. What if, let's say that James is just worried about what the lead time is to get his most popular selling models of bikes, right? Is that a support ticket to Stravello, or what's that look like? You got this editing here. You're dying to show me something.
No, I think you're totally right. A lot of times in the past, it would have been a support ticket. Your services team is then going in, changing around the report just for that one company, then having to respond back to them and having your response times get more and more of a burden. But really with them having the self-serve analytics where they're already spending time, they're able to just go in, change things in Analyzer if they wanted to, run those previews, change the chart types, switch around the different columns and values, and make sure it matches exactly what they need. And most of all, when they get to a version that is especially interesting to them, let's say that they really wanted to go beyond the cards and just really prioritize quality and have this QA pass rate be what they focus on, it's that save button that we facilitate and allow them to make sure that the version that they want is what gets saved only for them and for their team in a way that really helps make sure that it's personalized to their specific needs.
So James can come in. He obviously sees the curated content that Stravello shared with him. He's got the ability to edit those cards, build new cards. Can James build a brand new dashboard? Let's say James doesn't want to mess with what the whole team sees. He just wants to make his version that's important for him. He's got the ability to do that in here as well, right?
Yeah, just with this add button up here at the top, you can add new cards, start totally new pages, and then share them with their team, get those alerts, those scheduled reports, and all those other pieces of Domo that you valued internally, and now get it available externally.
Nice. I love it. Awesome. Alerts, the whole deal, that they're all there and available for them. So here's a question, right? Now, we talked about exporting, right? Everybody wants to export the data. Why do people want to export the data? Now, obviously, we support that, right? Mm-hmm. You can export it in all different formats. But the reality is what we find when we dig into that is most of the time people want to export the data because the data only tells a certain part of the story, right? No matter how much information Stravello shares with Top Bikes, Stravello only knows so much about what Top Bikes is doing, right? Top Bikes is the one who knows how many customers come into the store, what demand is for certain products, and all those sorts of things. And so talk to me about how, I know we've got a Connect experience here where if I want to take this rich data from Stravello and marry it up with some information from my CRM, right? Maybe I'm worried that as great as knowing what this production is, really I just want to make sure that Stravello is building enough bikes that my demand on the sales floor doesn't outpace their production.
Right.
Talk to me about what that looks like.
Sure, and that's where we go back to the original introduction you gave at this webinar about what is Domo.
Yeah.
And the thing you started out with is saying, I understand that you have a variety of different data sources.
Right. And
you need to make sure that you're not having to log in and log out to all those different systems to get access to that data. You need to be able to bring it all into one place. And so that's exactly what we want to facilitate for your customers, partners, and vendors as well. So let's say that Top Bikes had the ability to change cards and layouts and save scheduled reports and alerts, but we had an even more strategic partner that really needed to be able to go and take their data and combine it with Stravello's.
Yeah.
So in that case, we'll just log out then and come in as a new user. This time, Carl works at a company called Bike City.
Ooh, Bike City, the big dog.
Right.
Right, okay.
They are the one that drives by far the most sales for Stravello.
Okay.
And they also have the most interesting information about what the supply the demand might be as Stravello is trying to forecast those things out into the future. So we'll log in as Carl here. And again, we're seeing only that version of data that is safe and approved for Bike City and for Carl's role. But now what we can do beyond just editing cards and layouts is really take advantage of that full power of the platform here.
Yeah.
And come over here to this data section where now I can say that Bike City has that information that's going to be interesting to pull into this experience. So whether I'm pulling in a totally default connector or a file or some new type of database, after I have that connected in here, I can then take all that information and combine it with what is being distributed via Domo Everywhere and have both of those pieces of information, both from Stravello and from Top Bikes, be used as inputs to a data flow so that that can be joined together and lead to totally new insights that neither company would have been able to discover on their own.
So what Chris is showing you here, It's Magic ETL is what we call it. It's one of, it's not the, but it's one of the tools that Domo makes available to Domo's users in order to do data manipulation and things along those lines. So it looks like Chris has got, he's identified a couple data sets here, and obviously you can join those up. There's all sorts of things you can do. But if we back out of this for just a second, Chris, if we could go back to that last screen you were on. Yeah, let's cancel out of here. So you're telling me that all those connectors, they're all available right here? What? So we can hit connectors?
Yeah.
Oh man. So if I've got, let's say I'm at Bike City and we use Salesforce, right?
Sure.
It's our
Try
CRM.
it out.
Yeah, there you go. It's as easy as coming in here. You punch in your Salesforce credentials. You got a little UI. We won't walk you through all that. If it's interesting, reach out to us and we can absolutely spend some time with you on it. But got a nice user interface for how you get that data and get it flowing in. So now, and talk to me about what, obviously this is Bike City's proprietary data. It's their information. It's secure in here? I mean, does Bike City got to be worried about like other Stravello dealers or... I mean, I know we've got some good safeguards in place, but let's talk about that for just a second.
What's especially nice about this is that it's not just some general logical separation where we have just one policy hopefully keeping people apart. It's a total physical separation. It's a dedicated environment just for Bike City. Absolutely no user will ever be put into Bike City that is not appropriate for that company and definitely reviewed and approved by Stravello. And so, yes, Bike City can feel very comfortable in connecting more data here because they have absolute confidence, logically and physically, that this is their dedicated environment just for them.
I love it. So what that means, right? Read it back for layman like myself. When Chris logged in as James at Top Bikes, he went to an environment for Top Bikes. When he logged in as Carl at Bike City, he went to an environment for Bike City. It happened in one place. Stravello manages it all at their Domo instance, stravello.domo.com. But like Chris mentioned, we get the separation across environments for those users. Seamless experience. We've got it all embedded right in here. Now, Chris, this is really, really cool. And I know we got tons of customers doing it. Now, we got a lot of customers as well that are in, this is great for B2B type scenarios, right? I'm Stravello, I got a dealer network. What if I'm a bank and I got 55,000 members that I want to be able to see trends on their spending data, balances in their savings and checking accounts, that type of stuff. More of a B2C type scenario. I know we have a lot of customers doing that too. For those that are thinking this might be a really cool but really big solution, what do we do for those folks that just want to provide that real lightweight, limited access?
Yeah, when you're talking about tens of thousands, we've definitely been there before. And really what it comes down to is getting as close to as possible of a copy and paste experience that you could deploy really, really quickly. And so let's just go back in and look at another version of the experience that could be distributed out to those customers that really just want to be able to view and maybe interact a little bit.
Yeah.
So in that case, we just come back to that same dashboard that we distributed out to Top Bikes and Bike City. But this time, what I might want to do is just be able to embed that dashboard, decide whether I want to be able to filter and export, and really just be able to get that simple copy and paste type of experience where then I can go out to those tens of thousands of users, paste that, have it load for them in a mobile app, in an intranet, in a website, in a portal, wherever you want, and really still have it be as personalized for them as it would be if you had created a full user for them. But now take advantage of a really powerful feature where we can programmatically filter this entire experience for those thousands of viewers, even without creating a user for them. And the secret there is to create a service account. That service account acts as a doorway for everybody else. That service account says that, yes, I'm actually in the instance. Yes, I am safe. But every time you want to view this experience, let's then just apply a little extra filter on top of my access as a service account and then make it relevant for those tens of thousands of external viewers.
So show me what that, I know you got the dashboard pulled up here.
Sure.
Just show me what that looks like on the Stravello site real quick.
Sure. Let's go back and try another example of that. So here we are back on the exact same experience that we were just looking at before.
I think you guys just scroll up there.
Oh, yep. There we go. Thank you. So we'll log out of that connect experience that we were
Yep.
just in and that edit experience that we looked at a little bit earlier. And now let's look at that view experience that you're asking about now. So now in this very basic view experience, we're going to look more at Peter. So Peter is an example of one of those that just run that basic experience.
Sure.
And he works at a company called Speed Cycles. So again, we're going to make sure that that same type of filtering is applied just for him. But when we log in, even though he sees the same general type of content, the types of options that are available to him are a little bit more limited because it's all that he needs. So now when I come in here, I can still drill, I can still filter, and I can still maximize things and export if I want to. But after I've gone through those general types of interactions, all the other things you might have seen around analyzer or layouts or alerts or transformations just aren't distracting the experience from that type of persona.
Okay, that's awesome. So to read that back, right, what we're doing here effectively when we've got scales in the tens or hundreds of thousands of individuals, we know managing users is not fun. It's not an easy thing to do. We make that simple. We let you, through some server-side code, pass some parameters to those dashboards. Nobody can ever unpeel them. They're not even aware they're there. Show us what one of those looks like. So this one's not filtered. What if we log in as someone that, let's say, can just see the RDX line of bikes?
Sure.
What's
Let's go
that
and look at
experience
the
look like
administrator
for
for
them?
that. So if I log out here, and you'll notice that just like Dan said, there's all 6 of the main model numbers shown. And we'll log in one more time as someone who only sees RDX. RDX. So RDX is just their road bike line that they have
Yep.
here. Simply logging in as them, no extra work needed, and only those 3 RDX model numbers are shown for that specific user.
So they're not aware that the MTX line even exists. So when you think about your customers and their secure and sensitive data, this through server-side code, right? There's no way to backdoor this or anything. Ensures that the customer, the viewer, is only aware of the information that you want them to see. And that use of that service account, those programmatic filters, allows you to scale that infinitely without even having to touch any of the Domo code, right? You can onboard and you can add, subtract whatever users as often as you want to. Domo's not even aware of it. It all just flows through seamlessly to the product.
That's exactly right. Like what you mentioned about that server-side piece, if we were to unpack that just a little bit, really what it means is there's nothing that I can change either up here in the URL by putting some sort of parameter to somehow see more data that has been approved for me. There's no way for me to look at the source of the code itself.
I can't web sleuth it.
And somehow like back into it. And it really is something that is secure and you can have trustworthy because it's used by top healthcare customers that need to comply with HIPAA.
Yeah.
Top financial institutions that need to make sure that they're also keeping all that data safe. Even top government institutions that need to be able to deal with FedRAMP and make sure that all of that is super safe. We have companies from each of those verticals that trust us to be able to distribute data at scale, but still keeping it safe.
Chris wanted to keep it a little quiet. I'm a little less reserved. If you want to play with it, check out the pandemicoversight.gov website. The federal government, through their partnership with Smartronics, chose Domo as the vendor to distribute all the information about the spending in response to the COVID pandemic and all the oversight around that. So go check that out if you want to. You can see a real live example of it. Now, before we go, Chris, oftentimes we have customers that they really got to get going. They don't have a portal. Stravella's got a beautiful website here. Maybe they don't have a portal yet, or they do, but like everybody, they're starved of resources around engineering and whatnot. We know we make it easy, but let's pretend that I don't even have a website yet, or I don't have one. I don't have an experience that customers are logging into. But it is very important to me that I get something up quickly. We got all the security and everything that you talked about. And that it looks and feels like mine. What do we say to somebody who doesn't yet have the Stravella website with the partner portal login and or even access to web developers to help make that happen.
Yeah, if you don't own a domain, if you don't have any web development resources, and you even want to think about hosting, we can still get you active in a matter of days. And really, it just comes down to you being able to define for us where you want this experience to live, and then go ahead and create those policies all through a very simple web interface without having to code anything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come to an admin section. And again, this whole admin section would be created for you after you choose which domain you want this to live at. We'll go out, make sure that that domain is purchased for you. We'll set up all the hosting, and all you have to do is begin to log in and define what content you want to have shared, who you want to see it, and how much of the data you want to populate that experience.
So this, let me make sure I understand. Let's pretend I've got Stravello.com, but it's really just a pretty splash page, right? Mm-hmm. There's not really any meat behind it. You're telling me that this admin dot, and there's another area where my users go to, right? Mm-hmm. Reports.
Right.
In this case, reports.stravello.com. This is something that's provided by Domo. So me as the customer of Stravello, I come to Domo. I pay Domo a fee, and not only do I have access to the Domo platform, the ability to build dashboards, but you'll even provide me with this, we'll call it white label, this branded environment that my users can log into. So it's not even incumbent upon me to do any of that.
Yep. And best of all, even though you're not buying any domains, you're not setting up any website code, you're not dealing with any hosting, it still feels, looks, and acts just like you. There's no mention of Domo anywhere, all the way up from the URL at the top to the logos and the details on the page. It all still feels like you.
That's awesome. Guys, thank you for being here. Chris, thank you so much. Thank you so much for showing us this.
Yeah, good questions. Thank you.